This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and this is the perfect format for us to do it because there's so many successful hunters here. Yourself, you're a very humble guy, but you kill the hell some big deer, okay?
Beggins.
I want to talk to you, and we're talking to every guest about this, is like, if you were to summarize everything that you've done, what's helped you become as successful as you have as you're continuing to grow to become even a better whitetail hunter?
Okay, so it's almost like two things for me. I've been thinking about this. I've got 3 kids, wife at home. So the big thing is to give yourself a high chance of success, okay? So 2 things I do is I'm not going to hunt the days that just aren't, they're not going to produce. You know what I mean? Hunt, especially going out of state. Like, I don't want to go out of state and hunt the first 2 weeks of October. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to go out of state, it's going to be the first couple days, or it's going to be like during the rut where I've got a chance of a good buck coming by. I want to spend the most of my time at the house to keep her happy, be around the kids, and go in when it's time to kill. And the big thing for me, I think recently in the last couple of years, is I put myself in a position to where I make the deer come close. Like, I'm all about pinch points now, and I guess I didn't realize I was doing it for years. But, like, especially, like, using water access and whatnot in the places I hunt is, like, I make the deer pinch down to where when it is the rut or whatnot, or they're going to food in early season, they're going to come close to me, and give myself a high chance of getting that shot. And I think that's been the reason I've been seeing more deer and better deer and making the shot count.
I got a question. So back like when I was in college or whatever, I could hunt a lot, right? You can go hunt all the time. And now I've got a full-time job, a podcast, a wife, and a baby. So obviously I don't get to hunt as much anymore. So kind of like what you're talking about, only going on high odds days. But do you feel like when you got more restricted with your time, you can't spend as much time out there, do you feel like that almost kind of helped you a little bit, where now you're doing like only high odds stuff and it makes you kind of focus more? Because when I got to hunt a lot, dude, there's a lot. I look back and there's a lot of throwaway hunts where I'm like, whatever, I'll just go again tomorrow.
I'm just going to go out here and hope I see something.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've only got a little bit of time, you're planning more, you're more detail oriented, and you're going to be more sharp in the woods.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge.
There's something to that, but especially about being more sharp in the woods, because I think some people may not have experiences just because you haven't had the opportunity because of work and family to be able to go out and spend a ton of time hunting. But when you do, like, you go on like a week-long trip, if you're hunting super hard every single day, by day 4 or 5, you start mentally making errors.
Yep.
And that can make the difference between you bumping a deer, you potentially even, making an opportunity, or even just screwing up an opportunity before it ever even happens by like taking a shortcut going in there where you should have taken a longer route in order to get in clean. And that kind of goes back to what you're saying is the whole idea of not putting so much pressure on yourself of I've got to hunt every single day possible, but waiting till the conditions right, make sure you're mentally ready. But also I think a lot of that comes with experience as well. I almost would say as a new person going into the woods hunting, it would be super difficult, I think, in order to do what we're talking about here if you don't have the experience of how to go about handling different situations and also have the skill set to get to that point. But like compare like what you were doing like early on, focusing on, especially more recently, these high odd days of hunting. What was like the biggest learning curve earlier? Like when you were looking back, say like 10 years ago, what were some of those mistakes you were making now that you're trying to like work out? If not, you've completely worked out your system.
Access, 100%. Like I would just I look at a spot that I want to go hunt, and I'm walking straight to it, and you can't do that. Like you might get lucky in the rut, you know what I mean? And it happens a lot, but like you've got to watch where you're walking. You've got to watch where the deer can see and smell you. Like that's my biggest thing of using water access a lot is like I'm keeping myself out of the sight of the deer at all times. I'm using creeks, rivers, drainages, even like a ditch that's like 5 feet tall because I'm only like 4'5". So
I always heard short guys are better at deer hunting.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
You meet some killers, it's always a little old
all
fella.
these 6 foot dudes think they're tough crap till they get busted in the tree.
At Hunter Hogan.
Well, he kills all kinds of deer. I'm not nowhere near his level, but attention to access it's just huge, man. Like for instance, Indiana buck I killed a couple of years ago. I'm going up this creek at gray light because it rained that morning. And from the creek, I'm hitting a ditch. I'm following the ditch, and out of the ditch, I'm jumping straight into a slough with water in my dry shods and walking the water edge until I come out of the water, and I've got like the thermals pulling towards the sun. The sun's behind me. The water's behind me. Everything is pulling right to that area, and like I felt really good about that day, and it happened. You know what I mean? Like just being really careful where I walk and where I'm not showing myself to the deer it's paid off a lot.
Yeah, man. Awesome. What about the pinch point thing that you mentioned? Can you dive a little bit deeper into that? You said that's something you've been inadvertently doing for a long time. Can you explain that a little bit more?
So, like features that are going to make the deer, like take for example the same hunt I'm talking about. That area, I think I might have actually showed Jacob this area. So you've got this slough that can be super wet or it can dry up just a little bit. It's right up next to an ag field. So these deer are coming off this ag field at night and going back through, and bottomlands deer just could bed anywhere. There's a little bit of cane thicket down there. But I've got this creek behind me. I've got this slough in front of me. And it's like a 75-yard, I call it the island. Mm-hmm. And these deer, like during the rut, are cruising back and forth, avoiding the water, avoiding crossing the creek, and they feel super safe doing it right there because of all the water around them. The more water I feel like you put between you and like the road and whatnot, or just other access points, it's like the deer act like deer back there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But something else like a pinch point that I like to use is like a super steep hill, like leading up to like maybe another real steep hill or another body of water. The deer aren't going to like hit that super hard incline just to avoid going around that flat spot. Like that's a great spot that I put trail cameras. I have a lot of success like getting good pictures there, deer traveling back and forth. But yeah.
Awesome.
Is that something also, by the way, early season, is that something you focus on as pinch points or just not really?
I don't focus on them as much. Now, if I find like a golden opportunity, you know what I mean? Like that's just when the stars align, especially like hunting like early season like I do, like early September. Like if you can find a pinch point where they're coming to food in daylight, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even start talking about it right now. But no, not as much as early season as, later in October and the rut. November, like whenever y'all's is in June or whatnot.
Yeah, awesome. The one last thing I want to kind of end on is what would be like your piece of advice for somebody? If there's, again, whether this is somebody who's been hunting for 10 years and they still haven't put it together, or they don't feel like they've been putting it together, or is a newer guy kind of getting started, and he's spending time in the woods, he's struggling, he's seeing deer, but he's not closing the deal on them. Like, what would be like a piece of advice you'd kind of give them in order to something to pay attention to for this season?
Pay attention to your access and just soak in information from killers. Like, watch these guys that are, actually going out and putting down these good deer on public consistently every single year. Those are the guys that know what they're doing. Be a sponge, like 100%. I mean, that's what I've done since I feel like 2017 is when it really started clicking for me. I killed some good deer before then, but it was, whatever. Mm-hmm. Since then, I've just been taking in little tidbits here and there. Find out what works for you and run with it,
And, hey, where can guys check out the YouTube channel? Oh, DO3 Outdoors.
On YouTube.
Tell them the channel name.
You can look up my name. It pops up, Jacob Emery, Emery, or you can search DO3 Outdoors. Stands for Data 3. Got 3 kids. It's not going to change. We got the old snip.
Oh, dude. Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining us. And, guys, we'll
hop on to the next one.
Hop on to the next one.